The mid-season finale of Better Call Saul Season 6 has left us with a shocking moment, and from this, the wait for the last 6 episodes in July is going to be even more painful. But when it does return, what could we see happen in the show come its ending, and how will we pick up from the climax of Episode 7? In this video, I'm going to be discussing my early predictions and theories surrounding the big questions of Better Call Saul Season 6 Part 2. But before I get into it, if you want to see more videos on the final season of Better Call Saul, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram at Cortex Videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's dive into my predictions for Better Call Saul Season 6 Part 2. So series creators Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould gave us a truly jaw-dropping cliffhanger ending to the Better Call Saul mid-season finale, and now we have to wait until July for the last 6 episodes. But while we find a way to let the time pass, we can start to theorize and predict what will happen in those final episodes, and discuss how Saul Goodman's story will come to an end. Now we know that we next meet Jimmy in Breaking Bad Season 2, so the final episodes of Better Call Saul need to link into the person he is in that timeline, but then also we need to keep in mind that we have the future timeline of Jimmy living as Gene, the identity he takes up in Omaha, Nebraska during the black and white prologues in previous seasons. So what could that explosive ending in episode 7 mean going forward? Well, of course, Lalo showed up at Jimmy and Kim's apartment in the final scene of that episode and claimed that he has just come to talk to his lawyers, and then when Howard realizes it may be a good idea to listen to Kim and leave, Lalo shoots him in the head. With Howard dead on the floor, it all ends with Lalo saying, "Let's talk." So what could we see in the next few episodes regarding what happened? Well, I think that Jimmy and Kim are going to have to give Lalo some information, and I think that this will be everything that Jimmy knows in regards to Mike, Gus, and the events of Season 5. Jimmy will also probably not like that Kim kept secret the fact that Lalo was still alive, and I think things will definitely get heated. But they've still got the problem of Howard's dead body in their apartment to sort out, and I think after telling Lalo what he wants to know, the Salamanca will leave them to clean up the mess. Jimmy and Kim may have to clean up after Lalo, meaning they bury Howard and have to cover up everything that happened, making it seem like a suicide. With the help of Mike, and this being his first cleanup, it would be the next logical way to go. And this could work in one way or the other, because Howard was literally just made to look crazy at HHM, so I think initially it's quite believable. But you may ask, how does this impact the central characters? Do they just move on, and could this lead to something else down the line? Well, I think the death and cover-up of Howard would essentially represent the lowest point for them in this show, and having just tried to burn his reputation, I feel like they will face the consequences to the extreme and feel the full effects of what they previously did. And I think this could ultimately lead to the feds being on them, and the only way to escape it could come in a moment of desperation. Maybe Kim could create a story and take the fall for his death. I think this could explain her being missing in Breaking Bad, and it could also add to why Gene chose to not use that call in the last black and white scene as a way to forge another identity. Instead, he could not be running anymore, and this would fit with his line in that last flash forward scene where he says he'll take care of it himself. Maybe this is the moment where he realizes that he needs to finally deal with the consequences of breaking the law and owning up to the history possibility of slipping Jimmy. Maybe he thinks that Kim deserves a second chance at a new life and not him. And that would maybe fit in line with what Howard was saying just before he was killed. The way he stated that Jimmy has always been this way, but that Kim was one of the good ones that he didn't expect to be like him. So what if this is leaning into where the show is eventually going in the end, the idea that Jimmy hands himself in or even devises a plan to claim that Kim was covering for him. His gene identity is already in trouble, and by helping Kim and giving her a chance to be the one with a future would be the happier ending in mind. And not to mention that the teaser trailer for season 6 part 2 included black and white footage of Kim and Jimmy's apartment, with Jimmy saying, "So after all that, a happy ending." Of course, not entirely happy, but I think it would be Jimmy McGill owning up and making peace with himself, and then finally helping Kim. It would further allow for us to have a scene between Gene and Kim in that future timeline and really bring the show's events to a close. They could of course go the other route and have her disappear with the new identity, which is based on that tease of the Black Book from a few episodes ago, but I think it would be very predictable. I guess it could still happen if Jimmy gets her out of jail and then she gets a new identity to start fresh, but if Jimmy does it the right way, then would it really call for a new identity? Again, she may not even go to jail, and this is just me theorizing, but I do think they will go another route over just having her disappear, especially when she's so involved and wants to help Jimmy during this current timeline. The only way to change that would be for her to get arrested and take the fall for Howard's death over Jimmy, and then the last few episodes would involve Jimmy returning the favour and doing the right thing in the process. But yes, we'll have to see, and like many things here, they could really go in any direction. So you may be asking, how does the Lalo Salamanca situation resolve? Of course, in episode 7, Lalo emerges from the sewers in the road opposite the laundrette owned by Gus Fring. We know that beneath is a massive room that will one day house the high-tech super lab where Walter White and Jesse Pinkman will make crystal meth for Gus. Lalo is yet to discover what Gus is up to, so he's watching the laundrette and the men hired to protect what's inside. Now we know that Lalo is mentioned in Breaking Bad in the Better Call Saul episode when Jesse and Walt kidnap Saul Goodman and take him out into the desert. He proceeds to mention Nacho and Lalo, thinking it was them who had him kidnapped, which could be telling us that by the end of Better Call Saul's current events, Lalo could still be alive. But I think that maybe because the events with Lalo are so brutal, that maybe Saul thought this was the fallback. I do think that Lalo will be killed this season, and if I had to guess, it's going to all come down to a confrontation in the meth lab prior to Jesse and Walt cooking there. I think it would be poetic if Mike, Gus, or both of them do kill Lalo there, maybe using the gun that Gus hid in the previous episode. And they could also bury him below. It's the perfect place to hide a body, and rewatching Breaking Bad, knowing that Lalo is buried under the meth lab that Walter and Jesse work at, is the very thing that would call for a disturbing reference on a second viewing. Whatever happens though, I think that Lalo's impact is going to be a long-lasting one, whether it be that he created extreme problems for Jimmy and Kim with Howard's body, or that he almost discovered the base, which would become the prime location that Gus uses for cooking meth during the later seasons of Breaking Bad. That's just my brief prediction, but honestly, they've done it so well up to this point in a way that again makes it so unpredictable. And speaking of the meth lab, this leads us to Walter White and Jesse Pinkman. We know that Jesse and Walt are going to make an appearance at some point in the last 6 episodes, and series writer Peter Gould has stated that it won't be in the way we expect it to. Now we know that the most likely way of Jesse popping up could take form through him having a legal issue and eventually having to hire a criminal lawyer that he originally introduced to Walt. But if it's going to be unpredictable and dramatically earned, like Peter Gould has pointed to, how could they fit in the show this way? Well, at the minute, I think it's very hard to guess how, but what I will say is that I think we're going to see them in the penultimate episode. That one is being written and directed by Vince Gilligan, and it would make sense that if they were going to do an episode during the events of Breaking Bad, that it could be this one. What we could see is, in the next 4 episodes, a conclusion of the current Better Call Saul events. Then, in the penultimate one, the events that take place during Breaking Bad, and something that reframes how we feel about Saul Goodman. And then, of course, the final episode could be completely Gene-focused after the events of Breaking Bad. That's what I think, and you could have Walt and Jesse being introduced in a way that pushes forward the story of Saul during those events. It has to focus on him and not feel like they've hijacked the show. But Vince is great at this stuff, so I fully trust his writing when it comes to reintroducing these characters. And what's not to say that we see Jesse at the end of episode 11 meeting Saul for the first time, and then that would give the perfect springboard into the penultimate episode where we go forward to the events of Breaking Bad with Vince Gilligan. It will be really interesting to see how they handle it, but again, I have faith that they will use it to focus on Saul and his story going forward. And yes, I think that this will lead us to the finale, which will be a whole episode on Gene Takovic. Like I said at the start of this video, I predict it will all lead to a climactic episode of Jimmy trying to help Kim, and in the process, owning up for all of his wrongdoings. Breaking Bad gave us someone who died his own way, doing the thing he enjoyed, but with Saul, we've always had the sense of someone who would either con his way out to a happy ending or face the consequences. The consequences have always been teased, and the death of Howard and Lalo returning in episode 7 is the latest in a long line of them. The opening scene of season 6 was a flash forward to his property being raided after the larger investigation into Walter White's criminal activity, and Better Call Saul needs to give Gene the last word because that is the complete ending for Jimmy McGill. Whatever happens with Gene will ultimately be where Jimmy ends up. He goes from Jimmy to Saul to Gene, and I predict he will eventually go back to Jimmy. But the Jimmy I predict we'll see is someone ready to own up, and in doing that, help Kim and give her a future. The show has hinted at Kim being successful and making opportunities, just like we saw of her in episode 6 of this season, but then she turned around and came straight back to help Jimmy. So what if in the final episode, both Jimmy and Kim break that loop of always turning to bad choice road? What if they fully redeem themselves in this happy ending that the new teaser trailer indicates? There's still loss and Jimmy goes down, but in the end he becomes truly honest and the respectable Jimmy McGill comes into the forefront. It could of course go the complete opposite direction to this, but I think it would be fitting, and they wouldn't want to just repeat things that they did in Breaking Bad. The connection between Jimmy and Kim has been at the very heart of this show since the beginning, and I think ending it in that Gene timeline with them both being at the very center is the way to go. But I'm ready for Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould to completely destroy my predictions with something crazy, and hopefully whatever route they go, it will all work out. But they were my thoughts and predictions for Better Call Saul Season 6 Part 2. Again, it's going to be quite the wait to see which route they actually take with the end of Better Call Saul, but after how good that first half was, I'm extremely excited to see what they will do. They've made a prequel show about Saul Goodman so unpredictable and consistent in its quality, and that just shows how great the writing has been throughout this show. We'll soon get our answers, and hopefully the showrunners can nail the ending, just like they did with Breaking Bad. But let me know down below in the comment section what your predictions and theories are surrounding the final 6 episodes. For more videos on the final episodes of Better Call Saul Season 6, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.